Put your faith in the light.
Hello guys, welcome to another one of my videos. This is Lightblade. Well, this video is going to be a bit short, but it has a lot of information that has happened in the beta for Retribution Paladins in the last 24 hours. They have been really exciting. We have 2 talent changes. One talent has been removed. There we have some buffs and some nerfs for Covenant abilities, specifically 2 Covenant abilities, and we also have a change in one of our legendaries. So that's a lot of information to process in this video. Let's go with the changes now. Okay guys, so first of all, let's talk about the changes in talents that have happened in the beta in the last 24 hours. So the first talent that has changed is Execution Sentence. So the old Execution Sentence used to just throw a hammer on a target and it debuffed them, so they took extra holy damage. So this new hammer is going back to an old version of Execution Sentence that was a hammer that slowly fell down into your target for 8 seconds. After it hit, they suffered a big burst of damage, but on top of that, they will take 20% of the damage taken by all of our abilities in the time that the hammer was in the air. This is a really good change for Retribution Paladins, especially in PvP, since PvPers rely a lot of burst damage to kill their targets. This is also incredible buff for PvE situations for Retribution Paladins, because we now have a really explosive burst window in which we can do a lot of damage to a target when it's needed. This is going to be exceptionally useful whenever we know there's a target that's going to be taking extra damage for some time. Like, there's a lot of bosses that do that. They have a period that they are burnable, and we can just use this Execution Sentence for 8 seconds and time it so they get hit by a ton of damage. So now that's the first change on talents. So the next talent that was changed in this build of the PTR was one of the talents in our last row. So this one is really exciting, because the talent that was removed was Inquisition. So this talent, Old Inquisition, basically gave us 7% flat haste and 7% flat damage for up to 45 seconds, depending on how much holy power we used. So 3 holy power was 45 seconds of duration. So it basically filled the same niche as the Seraphim talent that we have now, because Seraphim also gives us a bunch of haste, but on top of that it gives us critical strike, versatility, and mastery. So Seraphim is just a better version of Inquisition. And having 2 of them, I think, was kind of repetitive. Also, it was really annoying to maintain 2 buffs, so we were using a lot of global cooldowns before doing damage. So I think in general it's a good change to have Inquisition removed. So now let's talk about the new talent, Final Reckoning. So this thing sounds really awesome. So it has a 1-minute cooldown, and it has 2 components, an active component and a passive component. Let's read what the talent does. So you call a blast of heavily energy, dealing 250% of attack power, holy damage to all targets in an area. So this thing is an AoE damage ability, causing them to take 50% increased damage from your holy power abilities. This is incredibly powerful in combination with our wings, and if you are Kyrian, you can take the Divine Toll ability. You will be dealing massive AoE damage because of the Divine Toll ability is a holy power ability, because it uses our judgment as to deal its damage. So this is going to be extremely powerful in AoE abilities, and the fact that it's only 1-minute cooldown is also really powerful, because it means it's kind of spammable in most of fights. This is really good because it gives us sustained damage. It fills the same niche as Inquisition without having to maintain a buff every 45 seconds. So it also has a passive. While this thing is on cooldown, your attacks have a high chance to call down a bolt of light that deals 50% of attack power in holy damage, and causes your target to take 10% damage from your next holy power ability. So this thing is basically just a passive judgment. You have a chance to just debuff your target, and that target will take extra damage. So that's a really neat bonus for having it as a passive, so we don't have to really think about this very much. It will just apply itself when it's on cooldown. So this is a really powerful talent. I'm thinking the only bad thing about this is that it's sharing a row with with really good other talents. So Sanctified Rite is just really powerful because it's old Light's Decree from BFA. We all know how powerful this Light's Decree. And Crusade. Crusade is just a staple for Retribution Paladins because it gives us the most damage at the end of expansions because of the scaling. The Crusade gives us a bunch of haste and more damage than normal Avenger Sweat. But I'm thinking Final Reckoning is going to be really powerful at the start of Shadowlands. We're going to be using Final Reckoning instead of Crusade at the start, and then we probably will transition into Crusade. What I would have liked is like they kept the Inquisition, but instead of Holy Avenger, they put Final Reckoning. That would be kind of overpowered though. But now let's go to the next changes. So we have a lot of Covenant changes. Let's go to them. Okay guys, so these are the Covenant changes that we have. We have a buff and we have a nerf. So first of all, let's talk about the buff. Ashen Hallow. So the old Ashen Hallow is the Bentir Covenant ability. So what it did before, it was a single target ability, even though it had a really big AoE red circle on it. So it was really unintuitive for people. So this thing looks like an AoE, but isn't an AoE. It was really weird. So what the new Ashen Hallow does, it's basically a normal AoE ability. The old one picked an enemy in the area and it dealt damage every 2 seconds. The new one picks all the enemies in the area and they take damage every 2 seconds. Although because this ability is now a normal AoE, the damage was nerfed by half, and also had a healing component. So the healing component also only healed one person in the area. So now Ashen Hallow heals all the people in your party in the area, although the healing was also nerfed. So the damage and the healing is reduced if there's more than 5 targets in the area. So this is a really good buff for Ashen Hallow because it was it was the only Covenant ability that didn't have an AoE component to it. The Kyrian ability is an AoE ability, but it has its uses in single target because it's basically a free extra judgment that you get in Divine Toll. The Necrolord ability had a single target component, but it had the Divine Storm proc part, so it has AoE uses. The Night Fae ability basically buffs the Blessing of Summer part, buffs all your abilities. It doesn't discriminate in between single target or AoE abilities. And the Blessing of Autumn of the Night Fae ability also reduced the cooldowns of all your abilities, not only single target abilities. So all Covenants had uses in single target and AoE abilities, but the Bentir one was the only one that was single target. So this is a really good buff to all those guys that want to be the Bentir Covenant. Also, they had another buff to this Covenant ability in which whenever you are in the Ashen Hallow circle, the red thing, you may use Hammer of Wrath on any target. That was before the buff, and the buff is this green part here, and the damage is increased by 100%. So this is incredibly good because Ashen Hallow has a 4-minute cooldown. So that matches perfectly with Avenger Wrath, because Avenger Wrath has a 2-minute cooldown. You'll always have Avenger Wrath to use it in combination with Ashen Hallow. But the previous effect of using Hammer of Wrath on any target was had anti-synergy with our Avenger Wrath, because we already can use Hammer of Wrath on any target whenever we use wings. So this thing on top wasn't doing anything. So having the damage increased of the Hammer of Wrath by 100% is really good for Retribution Paladins. Now we have an incentive to use Ashen Hallow on top of our wings, because we all know that stacking cooldowns is the best way to use them. Okay, so that's the buff. Now let's go to the nerf. So Blessing of Autumn. Blessing of Autumn is one of the components of the Blessing of Seasons Covenant ability from the Night Fae. So what the old Blessing of Autumn did was blesses an ally for 30 seconds, causing their cooldowns to recover 50% faster. So the nerf made this only 30% faster. And I think this nerf is warranted because having a rank 2 Ineffable Truth for 30 seconds was kind of busted. It basically was 15% reduction on all your cooldowns whenever you use a Blessing of Autumn or an ally that you blessed. But we normally are going to use it on ourselves, so who are we kidding? Okay, so that was a 15-second reduction on all your cooldowns. Wings, Wake of Ashes, everything. That was extremely powerful. So the nerf to 30% is basically just making the Ineffable Truth 2 and Ineffable Truth 1. It's still really powerful. It only now reduces our cooldowns by about 9 seconds. So it's not a really big nerf in the grand scheme of things, and I think it's still really good. Night Fae is still gonna be a really good option for those type of Retribution Paladins that like to help their group and not only bless themselves, but bless their allies and give them extra bonuses and stuff. So those are the Covenant's buffs and nerfs. Now let's go to the last change that the change in the news that came in this cycle, and this is legendary changes for Retribution Paladins. Okay guys, so the last change in this new cycle for Red Paladins is the legendary item effects changes. So the badge of the Mad Paragon. This is the best in slot legendary for us at the moment in Shadowlands, because the old one used to do this. Hammer of Wrath extended the duration of Avenger Wrath by 2 seconds, and it dealt 20% additional damage. So the nerf is on the duration, and the buff is on the damage part. So Hammer of Wrath will now only extend Avenger's Wrath by 1 second, and the damage it deals will be increased by 25%. So this is a nerf that many Retribution Paladins are salty about, but I think it's a nerf that's warranted. I think the nerf is justified, because having our Avenger's Wrath extended by 2 seconds every time we hammer Wrath was ludicrously really overpowered. We could have Avenger's Wrath for over an extra, for half its duration, like another extra half duration of the wings. So it was extending it by a ton. On top of that, it's still going to be one of the best legendaries that you can craft for Retribution Paladins at the start of Shadowlands. So don't worry about this change. It's still going to be really good. Eventually, when we get high levels of haste, this thing is going to be even better, because you're going to be able to fit more Hammers of Wrath in your wings duration to extend it even further. So it's still filling that niche of extending our wings. Don't worry about this change. Everything's going to be okay, guys. Retribution Paladin is in a good place. So that's the news, guys. So there's a lot of information. I'm doing my guides, not my guides, but I'm doing videos on all the changes of Retribution Paladin at the moment, but there's a lot of information that's changing around, so I can't actually put them out, because I don't want the information to be like outdated as soon as I publish the video. So I'll be doing these small news flash videos, and whenever like Shadowlands is kind of close to launching, I'll be doing my full review of all the changes that Retribution Paladins will be having, so you guys can have a summary of everything. Okay guys, if you like the content, if you like my videos, subscribe to the channel and give it a like. Thanks for watching, everyone.